The human race has quite the history. We have history spanning back several hundreds of thousands of years, and for the most part, we're none the wiser to it. Someone could have died in the very same spot you're in right now, thousands of years ago, and you would have no clue. We don't really know what happened all those millennia ago, and the only real way we know our history is when we look at what they left behind for us to discover. They gave us a brief window into what the culture would have been like back then, how society worked and what was their mindsets, a glimpse into a world that no longer exists. I say all this, and a lot of stuff in this video is from the 90s, but that might as well be a different culture at this point. In today's world, we have glowing screens in our pockets, something none of these ancient civilizations could have even dreamed of. But it also feels like we don't really have as much of a regard for leaving something behind for future generations. A lot of people are focused on their right now. As a big driver for a lot of people, especially online, is sweet, delicious internet points. Seeing those numbers go up for some minutes of fame, when in reality, these points have no real value in the real world. It's all held on extremely fickle servers and built on the foundation of toothpicks. All the numbers you built up over the years can all be undone by a few simple clicks. So what happens when these two worlds collide? Well, you get cases where someone discovers something that is one of a kind, or a part of history, they decide to post it online to just show it off to the world and get some internet points, which is fine in concept, but in some cases, they then decide to destroy said object. And this has happened far more times than you would think. So let's look at a couple cases. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to... I'm sorry guys. I tried to escape them, but they finally caught me. Do you like role-playing games? Do you like strategic turn-based combat? Well, Raid Shadow Legends is a free-to-play AAA-style role-playing game available for iOS, Android, and PC, and it's currently celebrating its 7th year anniversary. 7 years? Oh, now that's an artifact, alright. No wonder you couldn't escape it. If you haven't got into Raid Shadow Legends before, now's a better time than ever. If you download the game using my link or QR code right now, you can start earning an anniversary package worth upwards of $200. If you also use my link in the promo code RAID7, you'll get the legendary champion Pelops the Victor, who is a complete tank of a champion with magma abilities to rip enemies asunder. If you don't want Pelops, you can choose one of 6 other champions instead using the promo codes on screen, one of them being Ultimate Death Knight, who has the ability to track all enemy attention and take every hit for the party. And he can take quite a bit of abuse, so he's perfect if you need to take attention away from your other party members. I'm a fan of turn-based RPGs, so of course Raid was appealing to me. With pretty great turn-based combat and role-playing elements mixed up your attack strategies, along with the layered equipment customization, and let me tell you, I couldn't even start this game up for the anniversary properly because they were giving me so much free stuff. I was clicking the free rewards for like 3 minutes straight. It'll be especially helpful to new players like me. It was a big help. The free champion I picked was Sun Wukong because he's strong and he's a monkey, and I can relate. There's so much content in Raid, you'll be playing forever! Using the QR code on my link down below, you'll get the legendary champion Krogmar instantly, alongside the epic champion Galapo the Recluse if you hit level 25, not to mention Pelops using the promo code. Here's to another 7 years of Raid, and 7 more years of sponsorships. Raid Shadow Legends will never die. To start us off with, to really get my viewers hooked in, we're going to talk about the most interesting thing ever. Rocks. Rocks are cool, aren't they? Well, the pretty ones you find in the caves are, but we're not talking about those rocks. We're talking about the brown dusty ones you find in the desert. Whoopee. Okay, jokes aside, there is some merit to finding some rocks in the desert, especially if they're in very specific formations that you don't typically see. And that leads us to the state of Utah. Yeah, in Utah they got Salt Lake City and Mormons, lots of Mormons. And the rest of the state is known for rocks. But at the very least, they're very, very pretty rocks that took several million years to get into the shape they are today. Utah is very serious about the tourism in their state, as it's one of the biggest sources of their income. They have so many parks in the state just dedicated to looking at the landscape, and one of these parks is known as Goblin Valley. For some reason they call all these weird mushroom-shaped rocks goblins.
Ew, I like them! I like goblins!
It may not seem like much, but the fact these weird formations have been sitting here for millions of years and are shaped like this, it's probably a treat to see them in person. But of course, even taking that into consideration, sometimes these things eventually fall over. And in one case in 2013, someone decided to purposely make this happen. A group of Boy Scout leaders had traveled to this park to, look at the rocks, but they saw one in particular and thought it was going to fall at any moment to hurt someone, so they do the smart thing and decide to purposely topple this rock over to keep it from toppling over.
Ah! Yeah! We have now modified Goblin Valley. Yeah. A new Goblin Valley exists.
with this boulder down here at the bottom.
Look at that. About 170 million years of erosion to create these structures, and it's all done in a matter of seconds by the living embodiments of America. They purposefully did this, recorded it, and then posted it online hoping people would hail them as heroes. And instead, the opposite happened. They got absolutely hammered online for this act. The people were not happy with them pushing over this rock, as well, it was a part of nature. It was sitting there for God knows how many million years, and these guys destroyed that in just a few seconds. They just didn't stop at that, because when this popped up online, the state of Utah very quickly pulled out the felony charges for destroying their landmarks, and they also had their status as a Boy Scout leader stripped. It was also found out that one of the guys pushing the boulder was currently in the middle of a lawsuit claiming a car wreck had caused him some serious back injuries. And well, if that were true, how the hell could he have been able to do this? Honestly, I don't buy their excuse that this was to protect families in case this thing tipped over. I think this was actually just an excuse to make a viral video online of them destroying a landmark. And well, they got their wish, just not the way they probably expected. So this is a pretty cut and dry case. It's still over some rocks, but just to let you know, we're starting off with this one because it's the least offensive. It's only going to get more infuriating as we move forward. Okay, so technically I'm cheating with this one because it wasn't technically destroyed, but it might as well be. Really, I want to put this one on here because this one will make you want to tear your hair out. Well, if you have any. Starcraft. Considered one of, if not the best real-time strategy game of all time. I don't play real-time strategy games. This story takes us to everyone's favorite hive of scum and villainy, Reddit. A Redditor by the name of Camus49 would post the game collecting subreddit about the fact he had recently bought a box of stuff from eBay that used to belong to an ex-Blizzard employee. But deep within the recesses of the box, he found a one-of-a-kind item, the Gold Master Disc of Starcraft. This disc contained the entire source code for the original Starcraft, which is basically the blueprints for the entire thing, how it works and what makes the game, the game. The source code for one of the most popular RTS games of all time, and he just found what made the game possible in a random box. But the Redditor didn't really know what to do with this. I mean, you have the blueprints for one of the most popular PC games ever. Really, what do you do with this? Well, when he posted this on the Game Collector subreddit, he got a variety of mixed responses. One of the most common being, he should dump the source code online for the entire internet to use. As with this, they could rebuild and remake the game 10 times over in any way they possibly could. But it wouldn't really matter. As soon, it became clearly obvious it wouldn't really be up to him anymore. A lawyer representing Blizzard had gotten into contact with him, and he requested he give the disc back. He would ask around various places if he could be held legally responsible for this, but eventually with potential threat of legal action breathing down his neck, he finally made the bold choice and decided to give the game back to Blizzard. Now, morally speaking, this was the right thing to do. It was their property, it belonged to them, and they wanted it back, and so they got it back. Case closed. However, this is a special case because in this one in particular, this source code probably would have been better off with the internet and the pirates. This case happened back in 2017, almost 9 years ago. And let me ask, what new StarCraft games have you seen as of late? The fact of the matter is, Blizzard doesn't really seem to give much of a shit about StarCraft anymore. They're too busy running Overwatch into the ground over and over again. That's where the money is. Now, there is a new StarCraft game rumored to be in development as we speak. But according to reports, it's not even going to be a traditional RTS, it's going to be a shooter. Because we don't have enough of those, right? And if you're wondering, no, this incident had nothing to do with StarCraft Remastered, as the remaster had already been announced a few months before this thing was found. This source code incident had no effect on the development of that. So they got their source code for one of the biggest games back, and they have proceeded to do nothing with it. You know what's going to happen? It's going to sit in Blizzard's archives, and it's going to sit there until it dies of disk rot. It will never see the light of day again. It's like finding a missing child and returning them back to their parents, only for them to go right back to neglecting them, which is how they got lost in the first place. StarCraft is one of the best RTS games ever made. Never played it. But if the source code had been dumped online, they would have done something with it. Remember when that massive Nintendo leak happened a few years ago, and Mario 64's source code got uploaded online? Guess what's happened since then? People did something with it. The game got rebuilt and redid over and over again. It was like unlocking Mario 64's third eye. It got a native PC port. People started adding brand new features and graphics to the game. They started porting it to several other consoles that weren't the Nintendo 64. The ROM hacking scene for the game grew immensely, and people have done insane things with the game now that they have the source code available. It's an almost 30-year-old game, and the modding scene behind it is insane because of its source code being available. That same thing could have happened to StarCraft, but because this guy gave it back to Blizzard, that's never going to happen now. I can't really blame the guy too much, because obviously he didn't know what he had. He saw a potential legal threat breathing out his neck, and the guy probably buckled under pressure. I can't be too mad, which is what I would be saying, if not for the fact the guy got super defensive over his decision. Not defending himself though, because if there's one thing that Redditors love more than being unfunny, it's blowing off a company, for completely free. At least I get paid for mine. This man would go on to defend Blizzard's right to bully him out of what he had, going off on anybody who told him he screwed up giving this back to them. And well, soon his entire Reddit account would go quiet after a few years. The biggest mistake he made was posting this to Reddit of all places, and since it was one of a kind, they could trace it back to his account and hold him responsible for leaking their source code if it actually happened. This will probably remain one of the biggest blunders in game preservation history. He could have posted it somewhere else anonymously, or sold or gave it to someone who knew what they were doing. And speaking of selling, you'd think having the source code to a multi-million-dollar making game would be worth a lot of money, and well, it is. And do you think our guy Chemist49 got a nice cash prize for returning something this valuable? Well, of course not. But he didn't leave empty-handed. Would you like to see what they sent him for returning Starcraft source code? This is what he got. He got a bunch of Blizzard merchandise, a fucking bottle opener, $250 in Blizzard store credits so he could buy more of their products, and also a free trip to BlizzCon 2017 to have drinks with a bunch of the developers at Blizzard so they can sniff their own farts. So overall, estimating everything here, maybe 800 or 900 or so bucks of value here. And in return for all that, he just gave them the source code back on one of the most important RTS games of all time. That's all. Fair trade-off if you ask me. Oh, but don't think he got ripped off. According to him, they offered him nothing at all originally, so he'll take it. Actually, now that I think about it, do you think this guy had the time of his life there? And then do you think he had such a great time with the developers that he decided to go to BlizzCon next year? I wonder how that BlizzCon went.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Hey, listen, I gotta pad this video out, but I still think this one deserves a mention. And in this one, I can laugh at fans of the Pokemon trading card game. How's things holding out for you fellas? I am so happy that I'm not a fan of this card game, seeing how dire things are for you who are actually into it. The entire market for the Pokemon TCG has been absolutely flooded with scalpers, who will raid a store and buy up every packet they have to sell at inflated prices. And yes, some are very willing to pay. The Pokemon trading card game is now basically seen as a get-rich-quick scheme by a lot of people, who probably have no real interest in the game itself. But enough about scalpers, we gotta talk about the things usually seen in these trading card games, and that would be the rare ones. Every single trading card game has those extremely rare and valuable cards that are heavily sought after. The holy grails, if you will. And of course, the Pokemon TCG has a few. For a 1999 Japanese tournament, each one of the top 3 prize winners were all given a very special card for making it there, and these cards are some of the rarest and most sought after cards in the game's history. But the one to focus on is the coveted Trainer number 3, which was given to the 3rd place winners. There is estimated to be less than 10 of these in existence, and if you ever find them being sold online, they are going to be for prices well into the 5-digit territory. Tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands of dollars for shiny cardboard. In 2018, one of these coveted cards went up for auction on eBay, and seeing how it's an extremely rare and valuable card, collectors quickly flocked to it. As the auction went on, the price reached a staggering $60,000. 60 grand? Oh my god, that's a month's worth of rent in California! It was won by a guy in Dubai, and the card belonged to some guy in Iowa, so that would mean it would have to make a pretty long trip around the globe to get to its final destination. I don't know about you, but if I blew 60 grand on a Pokemon card and it had to be shipped to me from a different continent, I would be chewing my fingernails down to the bone until it got to me. Hell, I wouldn't even risk it. And well, you're about to see why that is. So the guy in Dubai waited a few days for the card to arrive, and then the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, but the card never arrived. He was now $60,000 in the hole, with nothing to show for it. As the original seller was contacted, and it turns out they did indeed ship it to them. They weren't withholding it or scamming him, as then their eyes turned to the post offices and shipping companies. Well, it turns out, after a thorough investigation, that 60 grand card had somehow gotten lost in the mail, and they were doing everything they could to find it, but alas, their searches turned up nothing. And so the guy from Dubai ended up suing the Middle Eastern shipping company that was supposed to get the card to him. Now let's backtrack a bit, because that whole lost in the mail bit is really mostly a cover-up. What most people think was somebody saw the card, saw how valuable and sought after it was, and fucking stole it. This was an extremely rare card. It had been sold to a guy on a completely different continent, and throughout the postage history, someone else into Pokemon trading cards just so happened to find what they had, and took it before it could reach its final destination. The average person is not really going to know that this random trading card is worth more than their car. And you could probably say, well, they probably saw how expensive it was and wanted to sell it off. They probably didn't care about the card itself. But remember, there are supposed to be less than 10 of these on the entire planet. They don't come along often at all. You can probably track down who owns all the current cards. If some random guy goes online to sell the card out of nowhere, something isn't going to add up, and people are probably going to find out it was stolen. Unless they do some back alley deals in person, but the stars would have to align to make that kind of sale. If someone knows what the card is worth, then they also probably know it was stolen. I mean, you can't just really sell this to any random schmuck walking down the street. Imagine walking into a dark alleyway at night, seeing a guy in a trench coat, and he walks up to you and asks,
"Psst, hey kid, wanna buy a $60,000 Pokemon card?"
Whoever stole this, they might have been a collector and wanted the card for themselves. So just like that, an extremely rare Trainer number 3 card is gone. And to this very day, it's still missing. No one knows what happened to it, and it's probably going to stay that way. Overall, my final conclusion is, if you like the Pokemon trading card game in any way, shape, or form, nothing but suffering awaits you in the future. Reddit has returned for round 2. This time caused not under threats of legal action, but instead, sheer, simple stupidity. A random post would suddenly appear on the subreddit PC Master Race about a guy who turned an old Xbox development kit into his own personal rig, which, you know, people are showing off their battle stations on Reddit all the time, and this guy just wanted to show off. Just another dime a dozen post. That is, until people took a closer look at said development kit and realized this wasn't some run-of-the-mill dev kit, this was an Xbox Alpha 1. Long story short, the Xbox Alpha 1 was the very first developer kit for the Xbox. It was what some of the most influential games were built on, and were probably used by the highest-end developers at Microsoft. And it's estimated there are only about 50 of these in existence. These things are extremely rare. And somehow, a caveman got a hold of one, and not only did he not know of its value, he then proceeded to gut the entire thing and stick subpar PC parts into it just to get some Reddit upvotes. Not only was it a piece of gaming history, but he didn't even completely check the hard drive before he formatted it, or do any research before trying to stick things that didn't belong inside of it. What this means is, there could have been valuable info inside this thing. Many people have gotten hold of development kits and found some really interesting stuff inside of them. Some people have found entire unreleased games or prototypes on abandoned dev kits, and we'll never know what was inside this one because Grog here needs his Reddit karma. I will give the Redditors on this subreddit some credit though. When the PC Master Race guys fully processed what he had done, they did not hold back. They went absolutely ham on this guy, telling him how absolutely brain-dead stupid he was to destroy a piece of gaming history like this. Now, yes, there was nothing morally wrong done here. It was his property, he could have done anything he wanted with it, but it's the fact this guy did zero research on the thing he had and then gutted it for karma. Not only that, but in an attempt to save face, he kept all the other parts just in case they happen to be valuable, as he then proceeded to put said fragile parts on carpet. Okay, is this guy a troll? It has to be. If you're building PCs, you should know never put the parts on carpet because they conduct static electricity and can short them out. Later on, the guy would even try to put the joke/satire tag on it, and then later just delete his entire post and his entire account, but we already saw the damage he did. Needless to say, this thing ain't worth a damn anymore. I mean, who just takes an old Xbox dev kit, goes, wow, that's cool, I should totally rip all of its components out and shove some crap that doesn't belong inside? You couldn't find another PC case online that could meet your quota? Or was the idea of using this old dev kit for Reddit karma too enticing for you? Whatever. What happened, happened, and we can't really change the past, can we? That's kind of the point of this video. Next. The early 2010s. For those of you who are old enough to have object permanence back then, it was a very interesting time. Does anyone else remember when you couldn't escape the grasp of Friendship is Magic during this time period? I mean, yeah, it was a breakout show. It exploded in popularity online. You couldn't escape that shit. Anywhere you looked, there it was in some capacity. In memes, in art, it just took over the internet for a while. Many guys from all walks of life, all political factions, came together for this horse show, and some with various different hobbies on top of that. And one of those hobbies also included gun customization. One day, a picture of a rifle started circulating online. It just looks like some dorky gun collector decided to pimp out his rifle to show his love and appreciation for Rainbow Dash. But when this image made its way to V on an Indonesian quilting image board, as you can see, the posts on here are not happy. In fact, they are fucking furious. Why is that, you may ask? Well, that's because it was believed that this was not just some random rifle. Apparently, this was a Carabiner 98 from World War II. If you don't know, the Carabiner 98 was actually originally created for use in World War II by the Germans. I wonder what group was using weapons in Germany in World War II. So that would make this gun one of the first ever made of its kind, making it extremely rare and valuable. It's one of the most sought after rifles by collectors and historians. Basically, this is something that belongs in a museum, and this guy just slapped Rainbow Dash on top of it. After World War II was over, they collected most of the weapons from the Nazis and either destroyed them or they were seized by the Allied powers. You don't see these pop up too often since they were supposed to be scrap metal. But some did manage to slip under the radar, and now this guy had one, making him 20% cooler than you. That's why all these guys are pissed. It's not just a random gun, it's a piece of history. The thing about this story is, a lot of the details about it aren't really that well known. The gun itself is well known, and it's constantly brought up as an example of fandoms going too far and desecrating a piece of history for My Little Pony. It's not even a good customization either, it's just a shitty blue paint job and had a sticker slapped on it. I was determined to find the actual origin of this story and find out, was this really a World War II relic? How did he even get his hands on something this rare? A lot of this stuff had been lost to time, but I did enough digging and found out. It seems all of this did originate from the K-boards, as it seems the guy who painted it went by the trip name the Jack-O-Lantern, and from the way he posted and spoke about it, it seems this really wasn't the result of a diehard My Little Pony fan wanting to express their love for the show, but more so someone who got a hold of something rare and defaced it purely to piss off the K-boards. Later on, another trip friend would buy the gun from him and restore it, removing all the shitty blue paint and the sticker, only to find out this wasn't a World War II relic. This was a Mitchell's Mauser, if you don't know, because I sure didn't. A Mitchell's Mauser was when a company called Mitchell's Arms got a hold of some post-World War II guns, scrubbed any and all traces of their origins, and then attempted to sell them to collectors. This was not a pristine World War II artifact. It was more than likely some Frankenstein abomination the original owner got for cheap. Apparently he gave it to him for a fucking $1. I don't even think the guy cared about it that much in the first place. So yeah, it turns out, after all these years, the gun was a complete fake. The worst part about it is, I can't even use this info to slander Rainbow Dash fans. You win this round, but I'll get you bastards next time. I want to talk about something that's been on my mind for a while. In a lot of cases involving media, there are people out there who want to make them widely accessible to the public so anyone can enjoy them. But in some cases, there are those who wish to keep these items to themselves. Having a one-of-a-kind thing is really neat in a way, but it takes on a different form when that item was meant to be massively distributed, and that never ended up happening. When it comes to lost media, there are so many cases where we have confirmation some of the media does exist in some format, but its last trace in the world is tied to one prototype or item, and that prototype is in the hands of someone who doesn't want the rest of the world to have it.
And the best part is, you can't come!
There are so many pieces of media that are simply lost because the person owning the one copy of it in existence wants to keep it to themselves, and this happens a lot more than you would think. There really isn't a name for this act, but I've dubbed it Mediasquatting. I've heard some people use the term locked media instead, but Mediasquatting is a lot funnier and it fits how ridiculous the entire concept is. Mediasquatting, especially when it comes to archivists and lost media enthusiasts, is usually frowned upon, but one must ask, why are they doing this in the first place? Well, it's simple. If they upload the media online, then what they have stops being special. It's no longer as valuable as it once was, since anyone can watch or play it now. It being available to anyone ruins the factor of being the only one in existence to have it. I briefly touched on this topic several years ago in one of my oldest videos, but as a refresher, there was a game called Bioforce Ape that was considered for several years to be completely fake. It never came out, its concept sounded so insane it could never be real, and one of the only places acknowledging its existence was an April issue of Nintendo Power, and most just assumed it was an April Fool's joke. Well, in 2005, a supposed ROM of the game surfaced online, with the guy uploading screenshots of the game to show off its supposed realness. Well, then after this came out, half of the people wanted him to dump the game online, and the other half wanted him to keep it to himself, since the prototype was potentially worth thousands and wanted to keep its value. Well, too long didn't read, the ROM turned out to be a fake, he pretended to smash it, and then years later, an actual ROM of the game showed up on eBay, the game was bought and then dumped, Bioforce Ape was real after all. There are many bits of gaming, film, and music, little pieces of history that are being held by just one person, and they have no intentions on letting anyone else enjoy it. Still, I need to acknowledge that it's their property, they can do with it whatever they please, they have no real obligation to upload them online. But you have to understand, all of these are an aging physical media. One day, the thing they're stored on is going to die, and then it's lost forever. Archivists want them uploaded online so they can live on forever in some form, but even taking this into consideration, some still refuse to part with their valuables. There was a case involving an extremely rare arcade cabinet from Atari called AKR from 1982. Only 3 of these things are known to exist. Only 3 of them, and all in the hands of private collectors who aren't willing to part with it. And since they don't want to part with it, it's quite strange when the ROM of this extremely rare game shows up online. Now, how did this happen? Well, it's never been confirmed, but it's been rumored some archivists posed as arcade technicians to come work on the game, and then stole the ROM data and uploaded it online without the owner knowing. And the owner was beyond pissed about this, if this was really true. Like I said, it's never been officially confirmed if this happened, but it would be really funny and amazing if it did. And of course, last year, there was a big breakthrough in the lost media community that caused a massive amount of drama, and that would be the unearthing of the lost Backyardigans pilot. I will never understand why the lost media community is so focused on shows made for toddlers, but here we are. The pilot for Backyardigans was lost media since 1998, and it was noteworthy because its style was completely different from the final show, as it was a live-action affair with puppets and costumes, while the final show was made entirely with CGI. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is, there was a conspiracy to make this pilot unavailable to the public. The admins of the Backyardigans wiki, yes, we have returned to talking about wikis again, had a copy of the pilot for over a decade, and did everything in their power to make sure no one could find it. They were actively sabotaging any attempts to discover it, including using fake sock puppet accounts, fake email addresses, purposely putting false information on the wiki page to throw people off the trail of the pilot, deleting other wiki pages about the pilot, and even impersonating a lawyer in order to get a video about the pilot taken down. All this for a pilot of a TV show made for literal fucking toddlers! I won't go into much more detail. I recommend go watching Blameitonjorge's video on it if you want the full story. The lengths some people will go to try and keep what they think is their prized possessions. And just imagine how many pieces of films or TV shows or how many games are out there thought to be truly lost forever, but there's actually one person out there that has the only copy in existence, and they will refuse to part with it until they die. This is a real thing that happens, and will probably continue to happen in the foreseeable future. Just goes to show you what a little bit of value does to people. A lot of things involving Christianity, in some way, have been extremely well preserved over the centuries, because when it comes to religion, people are really passionate about preserving that part of something they believe in. Even though a lot try, you can't keep everything from the past intact though, depending on the circumstances, and in some cases, when it comes to art, you can't really preserve it. Some art made back in the day was not made with the intention people were going to be looking at it for decades, even centuries later. So they were made on or with materials that deteriorate a lot faster than others. And that's exactly what happened with this painting of Christ wearing the crown of thorns named Ecce Homo, which translates to Behold the Man. This piece was drawn in 1930 by an artist known as Elias Garcia Martinez, and well, if you haven't heard of him, that's because this is probably his most well-known piece. This piece of art isn't even 100 years old yet. Almost there, but throughout its history, it was not preserved well. It sat in a church in Borja, Spain, and as time passed, the painting had started to deteriorate. Its beauty was being lost to time, and someone decided to step up and do something about it. In 2012, a woman by the name of Cecilia Jimenez had decided to restore the painting herself. An 80-year-old woman, she wasn't even a professional, she just painted in her free time, with apparently permission by the priest and other people from the church, as she decided to give it a fresh coat of paint. She turned this painting into this. What have you done? It looks absolutely nothing like the original painting. If you were to tell me this was supposed to be Jesus Christ, I would not believe you. Every detail has been completely changed. The crown of thorns he was wearing is next to non-existent now. She de-evolved Jesus Christ. He died for our sins. Was that not enough for you? This was near unrecognizable from the original painting, and the local town was quick to take notice. Some residents posted the artwork on a blog, where it quickly spread like wildfire throughout the internet. I mean, there were memes everywhere about it. It garnered the nickname Potato Jesus. You saw it edited into other pieces of art. You saw it plastered everywhere. It was the most interesting form of destruction. It was turned into something else entirely, where it resembled nothing about the original, but people flocked to it in awe. This had the opposite effect the rest of the topics in this video had. Well, yes, it was a piece of old historic artwork destroyed, but it was done so in a way that made people even more interested in it. Oh, and don't think it was all positivity. A lot of people, especially the town she lived in, were absolutely pissed about this.
Until now, she just painted on the tunic, but the problem started when she painted the head as well, because she's destroyed this painting.
Professionals will attempt to fix the botched job, but without a miracle, they will struggle to restore it completely.
And most of the paintings were made to specifically laugh at the painting, and especially her. She apparently suffered from a lot of mental and physical health issues when all this was going on. Having the entire world laugh at your failures is probably one of the most heartbreaking things ever. Or you could just be like DSP. The town this painting was held in was a small one, and when this botched painting of Christ took off online, people were coming from all over Europe just to see it. The tourism exploded. It was like they were coming to see a train wreck. This was the most attention this painting had ever gotten, simply because it was funny to look at. The church made pretty good money off of it. The artist had to fight for it, but eventually even she was able to get a cut of the money herself. I mean, she painted over it. And the priest who gave her permission to paint over it was later arrested for touching kids. And as for the original artist, well, he's been dead since 1934, so he wasn't getting anything. But that original painting was still pretty good. Obviously, it's 14 years later, and the impact this painting had is long gone. And apparently, the painting is still there to this very day. It still gets people to come by from time to time to check it out. This is one of the few instances where something from another time getting destroyed actually brought more eyes to it. I mean, honestly, she should have left it alone, or at least given it to an actual professional to work on, but we wouldn't have had a story this funny. And to cap things off, I found out doing research for this that Cecilia sadly passed away. Very recently, actually. Only a few months ago as of the making of this video. And well, this is going to be her legacy. I think more people are probably going to remember her than the original artist who made the original piece. I hope wherever she may be, she has the ability to tell the original artist, and maybe Christ himself, what a funny story this all ended up being. And so, that's the end of our journey. I apologize if some of these weren't more about human history, like some of you were expecting. And honestly, I was shocked at how little there really was to talk about in that regard. I was expecting to find more stories about people ruining things for selfies, or destroying more stuff for views, but most people either have enough respect for our past than I thought, that or they're a lot more well protected by people who actually care for them. If some people were told if they destroyed something rare and it would give them fame, they would do it in a heartbeat, but others do have some preservation and self-control. Whether the thing is an artifact from thousands of years ago, or a CD holding the data of a popular video game, everything holds some sort of connection, or will hold some sort of connection to the past. Everything can and will have some sort of historic value to someone, and there will be people out there looking to preserve it. And maybe someone will look to preserve a part of you that can be remembered. Me? God bless, like and subscribe, and good night.
Okay, get in.
Oh, and also, don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends at its 7th anniversary, with either the QR code or the link down below for all the insane bonuses and 2 epic champions. Bye!
Hey, my name is Julie. I'm a Pokemon trainer just like you. Stick with me, and together we'll become the greatest Pokemon masters the world has ever seen. We're gonna learn about the world of Pokemon, the trading card game. But you can do more than just collect and trade these cards. They're a complete game. Using the cards, you can battle against your friends to become the best there ever was. It's totally fun. So, do you have what it takes?